Hello everyone and welcome to all of you. I'm Romain Gauthier, co-founder and CEO of Didomi, and we'll get started in a minute for this exciting webinar. Just give some time for everyone to join, and then we can get started. Maybe to set some context. So we are going to go through slides. Obviously, feel free to ask questions at any time in the chat, and we'll make sure to address any question you have at the end of the webinar. We have some really cool content to show you, so bear with us and do ask your questions, please. Okay, so let's get started. So today the goal of this webinar is to introduce you to our new product, the preference management platform. And to be honest, I'm really excited because this is the culmination of a journey that started in the very early days of Didomi. Back then, we started to explore what privacy would change for businesses. And we soon realized that privacy was part of every aspect of customer relationship. And so starting by focusing on consent and compliance, I think we slowly but surely touched a more fundamental problem. And what you'll see today is, I think, the conclusion of these years of exploration in the form of a really cool product. Before I go too far, let me quickly introduce you to Didomi and to who we are. We decided back in 2017 to specialize in consent and preference management, because our mission is to give people control over their technology, and so consent and preference management is the best way to do that these days. And so now we are proud to support over 700 companies in more than 30 countries in their efforts to deliver privacy to their customers. And as a result, we equip a lot of websites, mobile applications, digital environments out there where consent and preferences are being collected every day. So today with me, I have a lot of team members, and I'll let everyone introduce themselves briefly. Yannick, you want to start?
Yes, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Yannick. I'm working as head or VP of marketing with a team that works really hard to make sure that the products that we release are properly understood, that we are findable, that people consider us to be an attractive technology or vendor to work with, and then to hand over to the sales teams and them to also be able to show you what our product does. So thank you very much, Romain, and I hand over to, one step down, Antonio, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Yannick. So I'm Antonio, responsible of the product team and design and data. So I'm really happy to be here, and as well so proud of this launch. So we give it to
I'll go next. I'm Jawad, CTO here at Didomi. I oversee the tech team. I've been here also since the beginning with Romain. So also super excited for this new release, and thanks everyone for joining us. Raphael, you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you, Jawad. I'm Raphael. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer, so we're responsible for Didomi's growth and very excited about our brand new preference management platform.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julien, and I'm head of product at Didomi, and I worked these past few months to be able to launch our new product, the PMP, the Preference Management Platform.
Thank you, everyone. So a great team of experts. We thought that every aspect of the PMP would be going to be better presented by the experts in the field. So that's why we've gathered so many experts around the table today. So now we will dig a bit into the topic and start with the starting point, which is that all relationships are based on trust. So maybe I'm stating the obvious here, but I believe that for some marketers and some people, it's still a massive leap of faith, and so the kind of leap of faith that require sufficient thinking and to be convinced. So if we have to look at the origin of our PMP, I think the fundamental that we explored are trust, and so privacy is a great field for brands to build trust. Starting by giving transparent information, adequate controls, those are the building blocks of trust. And as you can see on the slides, it's been confirmed by any customer who's been asked in like many polls and studies over the years. But we also think that it's a big economic opportunity, the kind of opportunity to generate more business, more lasting business as well for companies who like decide to invest in their customer relationships by the way of creating trust. So all in all, a win-win situation where we think every companies at some point in time will have to face this hard question, and we believe this PMP product is a good starting point for you to get started in this journey. I'll pause a bit and show you very briefly a short video where we explain why in this digital environment this question of trust has become fundamental. Okay, so this gives you, I think, a bit more context about why we think it's time to put preferences at the center of your customer relationship, because if you want to build trust, I think you should invest in two pillars. One is compliance on one end of the spectrum, which is to comply with privacy regulations that have emerged to better defend end users with their privacy. At the same time, I think you should as well take into consideration user experience and make sure that your privacy experience is correctly embedded into the customer journey. And so how to do that, and also like how to take a step forward in realizing that for the benefit of your customers. I think that's where, as a product, we offer a pretty good answer in the form of the preference management platform. So I'll let now Jawad map out what we mean by this and illustrating in the customer journey step by step what this means to correctly take into consideration user choices and preferences. Jawad.
Thank you, Romain. And so, indeed, what we've learned over the last few years, working with hundreds of clients throughout the years and also building consent and preference management with them, is that trust needs to be established throughout the entire customer journey. Nowadays, companies have more and more complex interactions with their customers across a lot of different channels. Obviously, we all do online, so desktop and mobile nowadays. We do, for some of us, offline with in-store or call centers, things like that. We do TV and so on. And providing a consistent user privacy experience across all the touch points is critical. What we see from a user perspective is that there are a few key milestones in building that trust and in building that relationship. Obviously, the first few times you see the user visiting your website, visiting your store, visiting your mobile applications, for instance, you're going to be collecting your consent with our CMP products. And that has been kind of like what the industry has been building the last few years and trying to get compliant there. But then users usually go one step forward from there. They're going to be creating accounts. They're going to be interacting with your brand some more, sometimes buying, sometimes at least interacting with products you might be selling or articles you're writing and so on. And so at those touch points as well, it's usually a good moment to collect those extra preferences. So ask the user what type of communication they're interested in, what type of products, what type of preferences they have generally, is one first building step towards your marketing strategy. And obviously after that, the user needs to remain in control. So they need to be able to update those preferences, change them across the full spectrum again, where if they give content on one platform, they should be able to change it on another, all the way into sometimes having to manage some complaints that the users might have, and that can lead to having to sometimes delete their data or at least give them access to that data in a different form. And so from a user perspective, what we're building towards is making sure that we cover the full spectrum. As a company, Didomi historically was very focused on that content management dedicated to advertising, to analytics, to cookies. And we're slowly broadening that by saying, you know, we need to be present as a business, but obviously for all our clients, we need to be present to cover all those touch points. And so that's the user perspective that we're seeing today. And obviously, they need to be convinced that you're correctly collecting their user preferences and enforcing and respecting them. As a company, what we also see, you know, from the clients we work with, is that you want to be able to collect that consent data wherever the user is, obviously, so that you can link it to any type of data you're working with, whether it's third party, first party, or zero party. We'll dig into that in a few seconds. And generally, you know, using a full platform that does your content and your preferences, like the preferences management platform, gives you that compliance aspect, which is very often the first thing that you'll get into, is making sure that you're compliant and that you're keeping proofs of that compliance, making sure that you're performing in doing that, so that the consents and preferences you're collecting are correctly being shared and synchronized with third parties that you might be working with, like all the marketing tools you're using, the advertising tools you're using. And then finally, easy to use and deploy, making sure that hopefully most of it can be done directly by marketing or advertising teams, sometimes a little bit of engineering help, but trying to limit the amount of development that needs to go into supporting that full privacy experience, that full preferences experience for the user. And so what we've seen over the years, Romain, if you can switch, please. What we've seen over the years is that there is this natural movement, obviously, in the industry and for all businesses, partially pushed by regulations, by user preferences, to go slowly towards trying to leverage more quality data than just all the data they can get access to. And so what we've been focusing on there, and where the PMP helps, is on making sure that we support that zero-party data strategy, which is basically saying that very often you want your customers to be able to volunteer their data, decide what data they're sharing with you and at what time, and also remove access if they want to. And so all this new product is about is building that privacy first attitude, where you don't have to necessarily access as much data as you did before, but making sure that you're accessing quality data that performs better and usually gives you higher ROI than if you were using all the third-party data you can find out there. And so, you know, we see it as a very strong tendency for all brands to go towards more first and zero-party data, and our job is to support that with this new product. And one use case that I wanted to emphasize here as being a very strong use case that we see across a lot of industries is the in-store data collection. So from one of the surveys we've looked at, says that basically 81% of companies collect behavioral customer data online and offline. And where historically all businesses are getting more and more comfortable collecting customer consent online, we've seen that there is still a big gap towards that offline aspect of the things. And so every time you interact with a consumer outside of your standardized digital channels, so it could be in the store, it could be on the phone, cases like that are cases where you need to be collecting content as well. And so we've worked deeply on that. The PMP supports all those use cases where you can collect consent with customers actually in your store, where you can have them sign consent directly on a tablet, for instance, where you can do what we call delegated consent, which is allowing your staff to collect that consent and having forms of validation, either by the customers themselves via email or by someone else on your team when you need a double internal validation. And so that has been also an important part of what we've been working on the last few years with our clients, and that has been standardized and made available to everyone in the preference management platform, is being able to manage not just the purely digital online use cases, but making sure we also take into account those offline use cases. And one of the clients we've worked with very extensively on that, Romain, next slide please, is hilti. who's been using us for basically collecting all their preferences across all their channels. And in their case, they have stores. They also have salespeople on the field, things like that. And so they're supporting all those cases with an integrated preference center that is able to collect user preferences and then synchronize it seamlessly with all the other platforms. And I'm going to pass on to Julien, who will dive deeper into how companies can use the zero-party data provided directly by the client in-store or online to boost the effectiveness of their marketing campaigns.
Thank you, Jawad. So first, I would like to introduce the product vision with one figure. 54% of consumers says marketing messages they receive from brands are not as relevant as they would like. For example, why would we be interested in coffee loyalty program if we prefer tea, for example? And do we ever actually open the emails we receive from brands? On the user perspective, each individual customer expects tailored communication and tailored experiences based on their personal preferences. On the company perspective, investing in personalization pays off for brands. Displaying personalized content at the right time to the right people will improve customer engagement, and boost propensity to purchase. But with the cookieless future, marketers will have to rely on consented user data to deliver personalized experience. So the question is, how can we reach this level of personalization and to promote a relationship based on trust, not relying on third-party data? If you can go to the next slide, please, Romain. Thank you. So, small video. You can go to the next slide. Thanks a lot. So with the preference management platform, the PMP, companies are able to ask their customer their communication expectation, their favorite topics, their habits, a lot of insight basically, and this user insight can then use to engage customer through personalized content or custom user experiences. The product is built around two main notions. We have the configuration and the widgets. So the configuration is the data model, is where we can define the purposes of the data processing, the data collection to ensure GDPR compliance, and the user's preferences you want to collect, the choices you want to expose to your end user. The data model is used to guarantee the quality and consistency of data gathered through several widgets at all time and through the full customer journey. The widgets, they are forms basically exposed to end user to let them tell their preferences. Present your customer with personalization option, and they will repay you with their engagement, loyalty, and repeat purchases. Now, I will pass over to Raphael, Chief Revenue Officer at Didomi, to talk about the concrete impact this can have on your sales metrics.
Thank you, Julien. So there is a direct link between engaged users and profits. The more engaged are your users, the more they will be likely to buy your products or come back on your website. So in this curve, what we can see is that it starts from compliance, and being compliant in 2022 is just a no-brainer. But you have to show the final users that you allow them to get control over their personal data. And this strong compliance will help raise awareness. The users will have access, for instance, in the PMP to audit trails, where they can have access to all the changes of consent status and changes in terms of preferences that they have done directly in the tool. And these choices that they make will help them to personalize, to collect zero and first party data. And there is a big difference, because zero party data is when the final user wants to directly give and share his personal data with you, and that's very qualitative data that you're gonna use to target them better in a trustful way. And be a trustful brand is now the key to maximize repeat business and to collect lots of zero-party data in a compliant way. Next slide, please. So to share with you some concrete figures about the impact of the preference centers and how it's our tools, the PMP, we now release it, but we have been using this tool for almost 9 months at Didomi. So we want to share with you some metrics, and we are comfortable to share them with you. And we have some customers that also experiment those kind of figures. So when we have deployed, for instance, the PMP in May 2021, what you can see in this graph is that it has helped us decrease significantly the unsubscription or opt-out rates. Then you can see sometimes some slight increase and decrease. And at the end of the year, when we did our Yes We Trust Summit, which is the big event at Didomi, we put a bit more pressure in our base, but figures still really reasonable, and we don't put too much pressure, and customers don't want to opt out. And that's how we can also help our customers, being sure that customers will choose the preferences, the granular choices, the frequency when they receive, the different communication, SMS, newsletter, and so on. And there is a direct ROI when you implement the PMP. So now I pass it to Yannick, VP of Marketing, that will tell you how to boost these metrics in a compliant way.
Thank you. Romain, maybe you can unmute yourself and play the video so we have a bit of music, and then I come in again.
Sure.
Thank you, Romain, and hello, everyone, again. Thank you for being here. The point that I want to underline is the ability that you have marketers, CRM managers, developers, DPOs, anyone who's interested in making sure that privacy experience is not a broken user experience, as the video says sometimes it is too often the case, is that with Didomi's preference management platform interface, there is an ability, a high ability for every brand, for every marketer, or for every agency, for their clients also, to customize the preference center or the preference management page or the unsubscribe page or whatever you call it to your brand's colors. So you can add themes, for example. So we have themes, default set themes in our console. If you set up your preference center on didomi.io, lagoon, ocean, sunset, whatever. So we have preset themes if you want to test out the ability to have different designs and layouts. You can you can design the edges of the buttons and anything, and this will allow you to alongside with visuals that you can see here on the visual, to have a preference management or a privacy management experience that is that makes sense and that is relevant for your brand, and which is trustworthy for your clients who are looking for something better than a degraded user experience. Very far too often we see unsubscribe pages, updating privacy policies or similar privacy widgets or messages being fairly badly designed, and we want to avoid that preference management, which is the ability to grant permission or to remove permission or to just change preferences if you want to hear a bit less from a brand, that this can be well done, and that privacy doesn't get a degraded user experience, as it is too often the case. Another thing that is on the slide here is that you can host your preference center or any type of preference management widget on your on different domains or on other environments in an app, or as we said about the Hilti, one of our clients, in for example on the iPads or any other devices that your salespeople have in store, for example. The ability for you to roll out a preference management interface that is coherent with your brand, but also works and connects with every part of the marketing technology stack that you have behind yourself, behind your interface. And as Rafael said, the ability to track any changes over time, to be able to show any regulator, for example, who might, or customer who might want to know why he receives an email or why you have collected a piece of data. This is all part of the preference management platform as we've designed it and as it has been presented a couple of days ago. I think I'm handing over to Antonio. Over to you.
Thank you, Yannick, and thank you to all the audience to be here. I guess up to now you have a big idea of what is the preference center, and also you should be asking your question, okay, fine, but how it works. So I think there are two things to understand. The first thing is that today you can collect all your preferences as well. No? Maybe you can collect opt-out rates from emails, or ask the question about preferences. You put that in some spreadsheets, and then you handle it manually. The first part to understand is that the preference center, after is a vault. Yeah, it's a place where you secure the data, and the data is connected to data treatments. But by itself, it doesn't work. It has to be connected to all your ecosystem and make this data flow seamlessly through all the different tools, even if it's a CRM or an email tool or some other tools. This flow today, it's available in a few different ways. We have three many ways to spread this information to your ecosystem. The first one is the batch export, which actually batch the information and send it to different systems once a day or twice a day or once a week. It depends on your needs. The second way to do it is in real time. For this, we have the API webhooks that is collecting things completely in real time. For example, what we can do with that, I ask, what favorite movies do you like? I click in horror movies and action movies, and immediately I will see the content of the website transforming and showing me this kind of content that I prefer. The second or the third API that we have, it's the rights. When one system is asking or requesting permission to do something, and for example, an emailing tool requesting information to Didomi and saying, do I have the right to send an email to this person? Do I not? Is this person part of this segment? Is this person likes football? And this kind of use cases. So one of the most important parts of the preference center or the preference management platform, it's make sure it's connected and synchronize data. So it's if you can move to the next slide, Roman, please. And today with the preference center, we also launch our marketplace that you will find inside our platform. In this marketplace, every day and every week, we are adding more and more applications to make sure you have all the documentation available to know how to integrate all these with your favorite tools. For the instance, it's mostly documentation about how to integrate it, and we are preparing a second phase where we are actually going to integrate the mapping itself, where you can easily just pull your fields from Salesforce, and then have the data points in Didomi, and then you can just connect them manually without any technical support. And if we move to the next slide, I also would like to highlight that the beauty of this is not only that you do a data collection in the perfect respect of the law, and also you synchronize that to build experiences, but as well that we have a full team that is going to accompany you through all these steps. The first step is define the data governance, the definition. What's the data that I have? How can I make it flow? Be with us, with an expert that is going to guide you through all these steps. After that, it's a matter of configuration. We will configure the preference center, and sorry, the screen is jumping up. Sorry. After that, I'm going to help you going through all these configuration steps hand by hand for you to be able to configure it, to link all the different data treatments to all the different data points to data treatments, and make it this solid proof and really compliant. After that, we're going to help you also integrating all these tools through all your ecosystem. The 4th point is to what we call the constant workflow design, which is the workflow of your teams. So before going to the deployment of the preference center, your teams should know what to do with that, how to use the tool. So our onboarding team is also going to help you to onboarding your employees or your teammates. And the last point and the ultimate will be deploying the preference center, and everything is working. And now you are building user experiences based on user preferences, but also doing that in total respect of the law. So that's all for me.
Thanks a lot, Antonio. And here we reached the end of the slides. Obviously, it's been like full of very diverse content, and I guess it may be for you like the beginning of your inquiry about what is exactly a preference center, a privacy center, how this can help you and support your business. So obviously, like feel free to reach out to us to engage into this conversation. Our team of experts is really there to guide you through all this journey, as Antonio said. And obviously now we can take some questions. There has been some already. Feel free to ask them in the coming minutes, and we can take the first question, which is by Alberto. Can the brands create unlimited purposes? Who wants to take it? Julien?
I can take that one. Yeah, thank you, Romain. Thank you, Alberto, for your question. Yeah, of course, we have no limitation on purposes on our preference management platform. It depends on basically why you want to collect data, and you can have a millions reason to collect them. So it depends on basically your needs.
Thank you. Next question by Lucille. Do you reconcile your organization user ID with CRM data? So already a fairly technical question, but a great one related to how am I going to identify end users? How am I going to attach consents and preferences to the correct user? Maybe Jawad, you want to take it and explain our approach there, if that's okay.
I can give it a try. So generally, indeed, an important part of everything we do is that when collecting user preferences and then when synchronizing them with third parties, we need to make sure that we're working with an ID that is coming from our client systems. And so that's generally what we do, which is making sure that we work from a CRM ID or an authentication system ID, like an O0 or an Okta, systems like that. And so we make sure that all the IDs that we use internally when we're collecting consents and then when we're further synchronizing them with your systems, we make sure that those IDs are the same ones that you're using in your own systems. So that's the part of the integration that Antonio mentioned, and where we make sure that basically it's the same ID. It's not yet another ID that you have to think about. It's really the one coming from your own system. And that makes sure that all the data can flow naturally throughout the different vendors that you work with.
Thank you, Jawad. Good question from Amy. Can you give any examples of brands who successfully turned their privacy interface into their brand experience? Sure. So we do have a bunch of clients who have helped us build this vision and this new product, and who are already pretty advanced in embedding privacy into the user experience. Some examples in the chat section. Obviously, it's still the early days, I believe, of this idea of putting privacy at the center of your user experience and reaping the fruit out of it. So it's still like early, and I think we have a lot of things to discover. And obviously, we built this product with the idea of customization in mind, as Yannick put it. We believe like it should be part of your brand experience, and therefore has to be customized to an extent that is like asked for by your end users. We are there to take to remove the hard part, to remove the complexity of structuring these consents and preferences, to remove the complexity of collecting them in many environments, and also to remove the complexity of distributing them across your systems. But for the rest, I think it's very much open for a lot of creativity around like the time where you're going to ask this consents and preferences, like how you're going to do that exactly into the customer journey. This is still like very much open for a lot of discovery, and we'd be happy to explore ways with you, like you as a client, if you're interested. Anyone wants to add something there? Maybe I.
No, we've shared a couple of links in the chat and in the questions tab, and we will make sure that we share more with you. We've talked about Hilti, we've talked about, we haven't, but I shared the link Pierre et Vacances. I've also shared the link of the Didomi Preference Center, preferences.didomi.io, which if you have a Didomi email address, not email address, but if you are already receiving emails from Didomi, you can update your preferences after authentication. But I think your answer was great, Romain.
Thank you. Next question: is SMS part of the use cases? So texting. Yes, obviously. So like text is a communication channel, just like email or other forms of communication. Chat, for instance, could be one as well. And depending on your audience and who you ask, this could be an interesting channel or the preferred channel. Or the appropriate channel for some specific communication. So obviously that's the type of preference we can help you collect and respect for your users. To go a bit deeper, text is also a good way to like authenticate users, to use this channel for better understanding who you're talking to, and so we also use this for instance, in delegated consent. So my user, one of your customers in a store, and is giving a specific set of preference to your salesperson. How do you take that into account and make sure that this process is fully transparent to the end user? So you could send him a text confirming that this set of consents and preferences has been taken into account, and then they can change it anytime with a text, for instance. So that's also the type of use cases we can help you set up to deliver the best possible experience to your users. Have I missed anything there, Julien, maybe?
No, you cover all the use cases we manage regarding SMS.
Great. Next question from Guillaume. Is it totally a new product or a revamp of your previous preference center tool? Fair question. Obviously, like this doesn't come out of the blue. We've been working on that for years, and to be honest, like the product as in its current shape is the result of all this discovery, as I described. We've learned a lot, and the real what is really new here is that we've completely made that available to any of our customers. So you can log to the Didomi console, start creating your preference center right away, customize it, deploy it, connect it with a lot of your tools in self-service and completely autonomously. and that's, I think, the part where we are really building something new, because we are making that available to much more users, to much more people than it was before. And I think this is unique. So like no one else is doing it that way up until now. So I believe we have a truly unique value proposition with this new PMP. And you can just, like, if you don't believe me, go and test it by yourself. It's pretty self-explanatory. We've tried to like make it very simple, and that's where I think we've reached now a point where this is compelling. But great question, thank you, Guillaume. A question from Winnock: is it possible to show offline data in the widgets? Excellent question about how to better connect what happens offline, or and by offline we need to be a bit precise. It's everything that is not collected through your website or your mobile application or any digital channel. So data that could exist from like the past, or from users behaving in one of your stores, or like outside digital. The short answer is yes, and I think that's where we also have very interesting use cases to show you. We really believe that's one part which has been kind of neglected. So digital is kind of isolated, and data outside of digital is getting isolated or siloed, depending on which term you want to use. And through like the correct use of consent and preferences, you can actually like extract a lot of value of data that currently lives offline, and also make that apparent to the end user, to your customer, and make that also acceptable, therefore. And so I believe, like, if you really want to tap into your offline data to like make that useful for your digital activity in your digital environment, I think the like preference and consents are the starting point, because your users, your customers, has to understand what is happening and where this data comes from. So it's a great way to transform this offline data into a true digital asset. We can go into more detail into like how this could happen. Maybe someone wants to add something there. We have a bunch of use cases that exist already with in different industries.
One small point, without getting too technical, is that indeed the way it gets displayed into a preference center and the way you can expose CRM or any type of data to the users is we do what's called two-way integrations, where we can obviously push data from what we collect into your CRMs or other vendors, but we can also collect that data back so that we can display it to your users.
Right, it's a two-way street. Next question by Eri: is there a specific brand or company association for e-commerce? Not sure I understand. For e-commerce, maybe, Eri? Okay, let's let Eri like maybe confirm that we understood that correctly. So, like, what I understand is what is like our like preference centers and the whole preference management platform experience in any way associated to a specific company or brand. The answer is no. Like we are going to support you in building your own preference center for your customers. It's going to be fully like white label, like it's going to be customized to your needs. So it will be branded according to your requirements, and most importantly, like the type of consents and preferences are going to be entirely decided by you as a customer. So you'll be able to be completely autonomous into like what type of preferences you want to display and what they mean for you. Obviously, like we are helping you in that process. So we have a lot of industry-specific preferences that you can tap into and get inspiration from. But fundamentally, we believe that's where your brand will be truly unique, because you'll be able to really adapt consent and preferences according to what is important for you as a brand in a very unique way, which is very important, because the e-commerce brand can be very different from the next e-commerce brand, and also the way you choose to embed privacy can really look different from the tone or the granularity of choices, the extent to which you give control. All that is for you to decide, and we are there to support that as a product. Question from Laurence: is it possible to A/B test the different customizations for the preference center?
I can go on that one. It depends what we call customization, but basically we have two notions. We have the configuration and the widget, and all the widgets are built based on the same configuration, on the same purposes and preferences. So it means, for example, we can have two preference center, and the data will be stored in the same data model. So you will be able to see and to have some analytics on which one has a higher opt-in rate per preference, for example, regarding the customization, text, etc., using two widgets, two preference center connected to the same data model, if it answers the question.
Thank you, Julien. A batch of 3 questions now from Mark. Thank you, Mark. Please describe the concrete business value of the solution. How long do you estimate on average time frame for getting it up and running, and what is the cost price model of it? The concrete business value of the solution is to give your customers control over the kind of personal data you will collect and process, and that will result into you collecting more data, like what we call preferences are actually useful data for you to customize user experience. So we are making brands more autonomous in their ability to engage and personalize their user experience directly through this type of preference and consent collection. Second question, maybe someone wants to add something else there. I think I hope I answered correctly this great question.
Maybe one very small point that we like to emphasize very often, obviously, is that there is, from our perspective, that's what Rafael emphasized, there is a link between consent and user choices and revenue in your marketing campaigns and advertising campaigns. So obviously there is the trust aspect of it, there is the compliance aspect of it, and then to be transparent, there's an ROI aspect of it, which is if you get to a higher opt-in rate or lower opt-out rate, then you should expect a higher return on your different marketing campaigns.
Totally.
Right, thank you. To put ROI, I agree. I think it's crucial to look at it that way, and so we make it completely customizable, because actually, as a brand, your preferences are going to look very different depending on which return you get out of this question. So it's really important for you to come up with what works for you from a business standpoint.
And also for Mark, I'm adding a study as a reply to his question in the questions tab with some ROI data by an external study by the data marketing organization in the UK, but where there is concrete estimation of ROI of preference management. So I will share this in the chat so that we can move on to other questions.
Great. How long do you estimate on average time frame for getting it up and running? We could almost set up one preference center live in the next 3 minutes. Okay, this is an invitation for a demo, but to be honest, it can be that simple. It very much depends on how deep you want this to go. But fundamentally, like simple use cases to collect preferences for different communication channels on your website, and to put that into some form of account and connect that to your emailing tool is that simple. And so we especially, like, for instance, if you already have our SDK deployed on your websites, there is no more integration work to do, and we've really tried to make that very simple for companies to get up and running, and to start checking by themselves how much this is impacting their business. But now, if you're like a very large enterprise corporate brand, which has probably not one brand, but maybe dozens of brands, who has like complex data processing and complex operations in general, obviously this type of project can take a bit more long. That's why we support you in this journey with a lot of different expertise, ranging from like privacy experts down to technical experts, and are really there to support you in that journey, together with some of our partners who specialize in making sure companies get on the right track there, and manage that correctly, and to get up and running sufficiently fast. Next, what is the cost price model of it?
I can take this one, Romain,
Yeah.
if you want. So it's really simple. There is two variables. The first one is the size of your database. How many customers do you get in your CRM, for instance? And the second criteria is the number of integrations. How do you want to plug to email automation, to SMS, and so on, or do you want to push, for instance, in your data lake? So with those two information, we're able to provide a quote.
More questions coming. Does this relate to cookies? Great question. Yes. So we think that from an end user standpoint, you collecting personal data includes cookies, and so when they indicate their preferences, their choices, we think it's in general for your brand, and it's also touches what you do with cookies, which is a specific type of personal data and processing. So yes, we suggest that centralizing user preferences should clearly include cookie consent, and every choice is related to cookies. And we also believe that showcasing that and making this connection between what you do with cookies and what you do with other types of data will bring light, will bring very interesting information to your customers, and which could also lead into better approval of what you do with their personal data.
If I can just add, indeed cookies are one point of many different data points, but yeah, data collection happens into different steps. First of all, is when I arrive to a website, I'm not identified, so I'm just an IP address or a device ID, and they ask me for my consent in cookies. Normally, the collection of preferences comes in a second step, where normally when we are creating an account, and that moment they ask me questions about myself that are gonna shape in a third time the experience that I'm going to have. And that's make me go to the next question, which is what's the advantage versus the competitors? I will say that what competitors? No, it's I will say really that there are a few competitors in the market. The biggest one, I'm not going to name him, but has a solution that is based on a cookie banner, and it's just a cookie banner that is remake with some hacks to make it work, and we are building a really robust solution that can help you like collecting this preference in all across the user journey that you have with your clients, and all secure in a data vault that centralize the same way as our competitors, maybe both consent and preferences in a vault, but it's also super easily to integrate and to configure and to make it different from a cookie banner.
Yeah, I would add that as a platform, we've always considered that we are really focusing on something really important. So centralizing consents and preferences require like focus and dedication, because as we've already like said here, there are many use cases out there, and so our role should be very like limited to supporting our clients collect, store, and distribute consents and preferences in the best possible way. And so we will only do that. And so I think that's one of the main difference and probably advantage you will get with Didomi. And with that comes a lot of the product choices and solutions that we will offer you. So our wealth of environment that we support, ranging from web to connected television, and making that really easy for you to embed this type of consent and preferences into any environment where this is required. And this also includes offline, by the way. But all that requires sufficient effort, like the exact set of features that will make it easy for you to integrate and connect with the adequate tool. And that's where I think we believe we are different. And plus, I think we are competitive by focusing only on this set of problems. Lots of questions. I think some have been answered already in the chat. Looking at it from a TV video service perspective, I think that's we took a lot of inspiration from the ability that some large streaming platforms have to personalize experience through the right type of preference choices indicated along the way. So I believe that's where I think we can support any brand to transform and make sure that personalization comes from the end user and not from anything else. Is it possible to reconcile the two products, CMP and your new PMP? Short answer is yes. So yeah, that's how we see it. Centralization of consents and preferences means that for any type of widget which will be deployed across your websites, mobile applications, will centrally store the consent and preference events attached to a given user, and give you the ability to display that to the end user for them to change their mind if they need to, but also to consistently push that into any system that require that. So as a platform, that's exactly what we focus on, and the way we see the future, which I believe is where we are going as an industry. The digital industry, as we've seen, is transforming fast towards that vision, and so I think we provide one interesting part of this transformation. Okay, I think it's already an hour, and probably time to wrap this session. Thank you all for the great questions. Obviously, as you've seen, we are really excited and really looking for feedback as well about our product, about the types of integration and use cases that you see interesting and relevant for you. So feel free to contact us and to continue this conversation later. We'd be really happy to keep the flow of questions coming to us. And thank you to all my teammates for this presentation, and great work by the product and tech team to make this release a success. Well, thank you everyone. Have a great rest of the day, and we are there for you if you need us. Thank you.